It's 2:17 in the morning. Your phone lights up with a call from a number you don't recognize. That's never a good sign in this business. You answer anyway. The voice on the other end skips introductions. We need to add another security layer to the bunker. The client thinks a drone strike is possible. You stare at the blueprints on your desk. 5 underground levels, hydroponic farms, private medical wing, blast doors that weigh more than a military tank. And now, they want more protection. But this isn't unusual, because in the world of billionaire survival architecture, requests like this happen every day. Most people think doomsday bunkers are just conspiracy theorists digging holes in the desert. But behind the scenes, there's an entire industry quietly designing underground kingdoms for the richest people on Earth. A hidden hierarchy. And the people with the most power in that system are almost never the ones building the bunkers. To understand why this job exists, you have to understand the system around it. Over the past decade, the global billionaire survival industry has exploded. Private bunkers, remote compounds, underground luxury shelters built to survive everything from nuclear war to economic collapse. Some estimates suggest that wealthy clients have quietly spent billions of dollars preparing for catastrophic scenarios. And these aren't crude fallout shelters. They're subterranean mansions. Think private cinemas, indoor swimming pools, artificial sunlight systems, medical laboratories, entire ecosystems designed to keep a small population alive for years. But what most people don't realize is that this entire industry runs on an invisible structure, a hierarchy. Because building a survival compound for a billionaire isn't just construction. It's security, it's geopolitics, it's engineering, it's secrecy. And where you sit inside that hierarchy determines everything: your income, your influence, and how close you are to the people who are quietly preparing for the end of the world. You didn't start here. At first, you were just an architect. Normal projects, office buildings, luxury homes, maybe a few high-end resorts. You spent years designing spaces for people who wanted bigger kitchens and nicer views. Then one day, a recruiter reached out. The message was vague. Private architectural project, confidential client, compensation above market. You assumed it was another mansion. Until the first meeting. The room was small, no phones allowed, and the project manager slid a folder across the table. Inside were satellite images of a remote piece of land, deep in the mountains, far from major cities. Then he said something that changed your career. We're building a survival facility. At first, it sounded ridiculous, but then he showed you the budget. 9 figures. That was the moment you realized something. This wasn't a niche industry. It was an ecosystem. And you had just entered the very bottom of its hierarchy. At the very bottom of the Doomsday Bunker hierarchy are the contractors, concrete crews, excavation teams, electrical installers, security system technicians. These are the people physically building the structures, and they almost never know what they're working on. Projects are split into isolated sections. One crew digs the tunnels, another installs the blast doors, another handles ventilation systems. Everyone signs strict non-disclosure agreements, because secrecy is the first rule of this industry. Most workers assume they're just building luxury basements for remote estates. A few suspect the truth, but they don't ask questions, because the paychecks are enormous. Some construction workers on these projects make 2 or 3 times what they would on a normal site. But despite the money, they have almost no power. They follow instructions, complete their section, and move on. In this world, they are completely replaceable, which is why very few of them ever realize how massive these projects really are. Above the contractors sits the next level of the hierarchy, specialists. These are the experts who actually design the survival systems, structural engineers, security consultants, agricultural scientists, water purification experts, medical infrastructure planners. Because a bunker that costs hundreds of millions of dollars isn't just a building, it's a self-contained civilization. Someone has to design the oxygen systems. Someone has to engineer underground farming operations. Someone has to calculate how long the food supply will last. And someone has to ensure the entire structure can survive earthquakes, missile strikes, and decades underground. This layer of the hierarchy earns serious money. Some consultants charge tens of thousands of dollars per day, but they still don't control the system because they're solving problems, not deciding which problems matter. Those decisions come from much higher up. Now we reach the level most outsiders assume runs the industry. The bunker developers, private security firms, elite architectural studios that specialize in survival compounds. These companies handle the actual deals. They negotiate contracts with billionaires. They purchase remote land. They coordinate construction teams. they designed the full layout of these underground worlds. From the outside, they look incredibly powerful. And in many ways, they are. A single project can be worth $300 million or more. And the companies that dominate this niche market quietly operate across multiple continents. Some build luxury bunkers in the United States. Others specialize in remote compounds in New Zealand or Scandinavia. A few even design floating survival facilities designed to disappear into international waters. But even these companies don't sit at the top of the hierarchy because they're still working for someone. And those people operate on an entirely different level. Working in this industry changes the way you see the world. Every project begins the same way: secrecy. Your team receives minimal information about the client, sometimes just a code name, sometimes a vague description like technology sector or energy investor. You rarely meet the billionaire directly. Instead, you deal with representatives, family offices, private security advisors, wealth managers, and their demands can be unusual. Some clients want underground shooting ranges. Others request escape tunnels that stretch for miles. One project required a hidden submarine dock beneath a coastal property. Another included a genetic seed vault designed to preserve agriculture after a global disaster. Every decision is driven by one question: how long can the client survive down here? Because the wealthiest customers aren't building bunkers for a few weeks. They're preparing for years. And the deeper you get into this industry, the more you realize something unsettling. Many of the world's most powerful people genuinely believe some form of societal collapse is possible. But building the apocalypse insurance industry comes with enormous risks. First, there's the financial pressure. These projects are massive. A single structural mistake could cost tens of millions of dollars. A ventilation failure could make the entire facility uninhabitable. Then there's the secrecy. Information leaks can destroy careers. If the public discovers where a billionaire survival compound is located, the entire project could become useless overnight. Security is everything, which means architects, engineers, and contractors operate under constant scrutiny. Background checks, legal agreements, private security monitoring, and then there's the reputational risk. Because many clients don't want the world to know they're preparing for disaster. If their bunker plans become public, it sends a message that they expect the system to fail, and that can cause panic, which is why the entire industry operates in near total silence. But the real power in this system sits even higher, above the architects, above the developers, above the security firms. At the very top sit the clients themselves, the ultra-wealthy individuals quietly funding the entire industry. Technology founders, energy tycoons, finance billionaires, people with fortunes large enough to build private survival civilizations. And they don't just fund these projects, they shape the entire market. When one billionaire builds a bunker in a specific country, others follow. When a powerful investor decides underground compounds need advanced medical labs, the entire industry adapts. Because these clients aren't just customers, they're trendsetters for the survival economy. Some of them even compete with each other, trying to build the most advanced shelter, the most secure compound, the longest-lasting survival system. And when you work inside this world long enough, you begin to notice something strange. The people preparing most aggressively for global disaster are often the same people helping shape the global economy. As long as extreme wealth exists, this industry will continue growing. Because the richer someone becomes, the more they start thinking about long-term survival. Economic collapse, political instability, climate disasters, cyber warfare, pandemics. The scenarios may change, but the instinct is the same: protection. And once someone enters the billionaire class, protecting their future becomes an obsession, which means more land purchases, more underground facilities, more secret construction projects, and more architects quietly designing worlds that may never be used, but must always be ready. Most people will never see this world. They'll never know where these bunkers are, or how many of them exist. But beneath remote mountains, deserts, and private estates, entire underground cities are being quietly built, stocked with food, medical supplies, energy systems, and enough infrastructure to survive catastrophes most people don't even want to imagine. And the strange thing about this hierarchy is that the people building these bunkers rarely expect to live in them, because their job is simply to construct the escape plan for someone else. Someone higher in the hierarchy, someone wealthy enough to prepare for the worst possible future, while the rest of the world keeps living as if everything will always be fine. And now I'm curious, if you had unlimited money, Would you build your own doomsday bunker? Or would you rather live your life above ground and take your chances? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to explore more hidden hierarchies like this one, subscribe to Hidden Hierarchies. Because the most powerful systems in the world are usually the ones you never see.